If you're in hell, pay attention. You're being taught things paradise never could. You don't stumble into the abyss. You're dragged by failure, by betrayal, by heartbreak so deep it fractures your sense of self. Maybe it was one massive fall. Maybe it was thousands of little cuts that finally bled you dry. Either way, here you are, face down in the dirt, surrounded by silence, haunted by the echo of every mistake. And it's here, in this desolate place, that the real lessons begin. Not the surface-level wisdom you find in motivational memes. Not the sanitized advice whispered by people who've never truly suffered. I'm talking about soul-wrenching, ground-shattering truth. The kind you only get from bleeding out spiritually and emotionally until there's nothing left but raw, unfiltered reality. Because when the masks fall and there's no one left to impress, when hope dies and you're forced to crawl in the dark with broken hands, that's when life starts whispering its most sacred lessons. This is your guidebook from hell, not written in ink, but etched in scar tissue. These are not the teachings of the blessed. These are the battle hymns of the damned who climbed back out. Let's walk through the brutal curriculum. Not everyone survives it, but those who do, they never walk the same again. Lesson 1. No one is coming. When you're shattered at the bottom of life, the first instinct is to look around, to cry out, to scream. Surely someone heard that crash. Surely someone will come. But days pass. Nights bleed into each other. And the world keeps spinning like your suffering means nothing. Because to the world, it doesn't. That realization will gut you the first time it hits. The loneliness will crawl into your bones. And the temptation to quit will wrap around your throat like a noose. But if you resist that noose, if you don't give in, something changes. You stop waiting, you stop begging, and you start becoming. That's the birth of self-reliance. Not the pretty kind they teach in school, but the feral kind born in fire. You learn to stop expecting the cavalry and start becoming one. The hands you prayed would pull you up, they're not coming. So you grow claws. You dig through the mud with bleeding knuckles. And you rise, not because you were saved, but because you refuse to stay down. From that moment on, you never again wait for permission. You don't hope for opportunities. You hunt them. You become your own answer. And that, my friend, is the first brutal gift the abyss gives you. Lesson 2. Comfort is a lie. Do you know what got you here? Comfort. False safety. The addictive high of just coasting. You chased numbness. You avoided pain. And in doing so, you lost your edge. You slept while life sharpened its blades. And when it finally cut you open, you were too soft to withstand it. Rock bottom is where that lie dies. Down here, there's no Netflix, no dopamine hit, no distraction to drown the screams. Just the raw taste of your own mediocrity. Just the unrelenting truth. You made yourself fragile in the name of comfort. But pain is the antidote. It doesn't sedate you. It doesn't lie. It tells you exactly what's wrong. It shows you the rot. And if you're willing to listen, it hands you the tools to start over. You stop chasing easy. You start hunting difficulty. You become addicted to growth, not escape. You finally see that what you called peace was actually stagnation. That what you called rest was just decay. And from that place of agony, you build a new foundation, not of sand, but of stone and discipline. Comfort may have seduced you, but pain turned you into something real. Lesson 3. Weakness wasn't forced upon you. You chose it. Here's a hard truth most people will choke on. You weren't broken. You were lazy. You fed your own weakness. You nurtured it like a pet. You defended it with excuses. It's not my fault. It's too hard. I'll change tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. And now you're here, collapsed, hollowed out, unrecognizable to yourself. But in the abyss, there are no lies left. The mirror down here doesn't flatter. It shows you everything. And what it shows is this. You let yourself fall. That's a devastating realization. But it's also liberating. Because if your weakness was self-created, then your strength can be, too. You're not helpless. You're just undisciplined. You're not cursed. You're just sloppy with your energy. And once you admit that, once you own that truth, you unlock the power to reverse it. You can't fix what you don't take responsibility for. The abyss forces you to take that responsibility. And if you survive that lesson, you emerge with a strength that isn't performative. It's earned. Weakness was a habit. You can break it. One painful, deliberate choice at a time. Lesson 4. Pain is the only honest teacher. Joy can be a lie. Success can be a mask. But pain is always real. Down here you meet yourself. Not the version you curated. Not the persona you crafted for others. The real you. The one with regrets. The one with cowardice. The one who abandoned dreams and called it practicality. The abyss doesn't care about your intentions. It exposes your results. It asks, who are you without applause? What do you worship when everything is stripped away? When the job is gone? When the relationship ends? When no one believes in you? What do you have left? Answer that, and you'll see the truth. You've been building your life on sand. Pain gives you the chance to start again. To build on something solid. Something no one can take from you. It shows you the difference between what's temporary and what's eternal. It teaches you to endure, not just succeed. It teaches you to be dangerous, not just liked. And if you accept that education, you'll become someone who can't be shaken, because you've already been broken and rebuilt yourself from the ashes. Lesson 5. When you rise from hell, you become untouchable. Here's what no one tells you. Hell has a graduation ceremony. It's not flashy. There's no crowd, no clapping, just one quiet moment where you realize you're no longer the same. You've seen the worst of life. You've endured despair that would have killed most, and you kept moving. Now the world looks different. The threats seem smaller. The people who mocked you, irrelevant. The problems that used to paralyze you, you walk through them now. Because you didn't just survive, you evolved. You developed an internal power that doesn't need validation. You found a frequency that most will never tune into. You earned your stripes in the silence of your own suffering. And now, you're not scared to fall, because you already have. And you know what's down there. Lessons, fire, and the tools to rise. The abyss didn't defeat you. It certified you. It baptized you in pain and handed you a new name. Warrior. Virtue 1. Ruthless self-reliance. No one is coming, and that's the beginning of everything. There is a moment, if you've truly fallen, that haunts your memory. It comes in the dead silence after the collapse, when you're looking around in disbelief, wondering why no one's rushing in to help. No friend, no mentor, no divine intervention, Nothing but you and the mess. And in that moment, a truth slams into you harder than the fall itself. No one is coming. That moment is sacred. Because if you listen to it, if you don't try to drown it out with blame, self-pity, or fantasy, it gives birth to a power no external rescue could ever grant you. You see, we're trained to wait. Wait for the opportunity. Wait for the support. Wait for someone to fix it. Wait for things to get better. But the abyss, the real abyss, it doesn't have time for waiting. When you're down there, bleeding out emotionally and mentally, you come face to face with this truth. Every second you spend hoping to be saved is a second you delay your own salvation. You realize that life has no obligation to cradle you. The world isn't cruel, it's indifferent. And that indifference either breaks you or sharpens you into something inhumanly strong. This is where ruthless self-reliance is born. Not a shallow independence. Not the kind you post online for clout. The kind that roars quietly inside your chest every time life tries to break you again. It's the decision to stop reaching out and start reaching inward. It's the moment you realize your future isn't in anyone else's hands. Not your boss, not your partner, not your parents, not even your past self. It's in yours. And your hands may be bloody, your grip may be shaking, but they are enough. The broken understand this in their bones, because they had to learn to walk again, with no one clapping, with no audience, with no reward, only grit. And the climb out of the abyss, it isn't poetic, it's animalistic, it's primal. You claw, you grind, you suffer, and still, you move. You begin to trust yourself, not because you're confident, but because you have no other choice. And with each agonizing inch you rise, you realize every tear you shed was a lie leaving your system. Every scar was a lesson in armor. Every betrayal was the pruning of weakness. Ruthless self-reliance means you stop expecting others to believe in you before you do. You stop blaming circumstances and start building new ones. You stop asking for directions from people who've never left safety. It means taking full responsibility for every outcome in your life, even the unfair ones, especially the unfair ones. Because when you own everything, you reclaim your power. No one can hold it over you. No one can take it from you, because it was never in their hands to begin with. This is a lonely virtue, and that's why so few possess it. But for those who've tasted the abyss, it's no longer optional. You either become the one who saves yourself, or you remain the one waiting forever. So build the plan. Get up. Try again. Bleed again. Crawl if you have to. Because no one's coming to lift you out of hell. But if you embrace this virtue, you won't need them to. You'll drag yourself out. And when you do, you won't just rise. You'll become unstoppable. That's ruthless self-reliance. The first virtue of the broken, and the last one the world wants you to learn. Because once you do, you're free. Virtue 2. Disdain for comfort. Comfort didn't protect you. It betrayed you. Comfort is the silent killer. It doesn't strike with violence. It whispers. It lulls you. It tempts you with softness until you forget that you were born to be sharp. Most people never realize they're dying inside because comfort doesn't feel like pain. It feels like peace, like safety, like taking a break. But those who have truly fallen know the truth. Comfort is the slow erosion of your soul. And it's almost impossible to notice until it's too late. When you're at rock bottom, comfort evaporates. No more distractions, no more validation, no more illusions. Just you and the consequences of your sedation. And in that unbearable clarity, you learn the second virtue of the broken: disdain for comfort. Not dislike, disdain, disgust, rejection of the very thing that once made you soft. Because now you understand. Comfort didn't care about your potential. Comfort didn't sharpen your edge. Comfort didn't prepare you for the storm. It dulled you. It made you forget that life is war, and you were walking into it with a plastic sword. Let's go deeper. Think back to when things were good, when you had the job, the friends, the distractions. What did you do at that time? Did you build yourself? Did you get stronger? Did you discipline your mind? Or did you waste it? Scrolling, drinking, escaping. Comfort gave you every opportunity to become great, and you slept through it. And when the storm came, you were unarmed. You were shocked. You blamed life, the economy, other people. But deep down, you know the truth. You chose sedation over preparation. That realization stings, and that's good. Because that sting is a warning from your higher self. Never again. Never again will you confuse numbness for peace. Never again will you lie to yourself and call laziness self-care. Never again will you choose the easy path and pretend it leads to strength. Now you know better. Because the abyss showed you what comfort really costs. The cost of wasted years. The cost of lost potential. The cost of not being ready when it mattered most. This is why the broken develop disdain for comfort. They see it for what it is. A seductive trap that offers pleasure now, in exchange for pain later. But now, you choose the reverse. Discomfort now, power later. The broken don't crave ease anymore. They crave intensity. They crave challenge. They crave the pressure that forges something real. Comfort softens the spirit. But hardship? Hardship cuts the fat and sculpts the warrior. So you start to seek out discomfort. You wake up early, even when there's no one watching. You push yourself in silence, even when no one applauds. You train when your body says rest. You study when your mind begs for escape. Not because it's fun, but because it's warfare. And war is not won by the comfortable. This virtue separates the survivors from the champions. Because some people rise just enough to be stable, then crawl right back into their comfort zone. But those who learn disdain for comfort, they burn the couch. They delete the excuses. They choose pressure. They choose pain. Because they've tasted what comfort leads to, and they're done being its victim. They understand. Comfort was the villain in disguise. And now that the mask has been ripped off, there's no going back. Disdain for comfort is not about rejecting rest. It's about refusing to live in sedation. It's about doing what is necessary, not what is easy. It's about asking yourself every day, will this action sharpen me or sedate me? If it sharpens you, embrace it. If it sedates you, reject it. That's the rule now. That's the new standard. Because you've already seen what comfort leads to. A dull mind, a soft body, a dying spirit. And now you choose the forge over the pillow, the fire over the fog, discomfort over decay. This is the second virtue of the broken. Not tolerance for pain, but a hatred for ease. A disgust for anything that steals your edge. Because once you've seen what comfort costs, you'll bleed before you ever settle for it again. Virtue 3. Ownership, without excuses. You weren't broken by life. You were broken by the lies you told yourself. When you first crash, When your world burns down and you're buried in the ashes, your mind reaches for excuses like a drowning man grabs for driftwood. It was their fault. I didn't deserve this. I did everything right. It wasn't fair. And maybe all of that feels true. Maybe life did hit you with injustice. Maybe people did betray you. Maybe circumstances were outside your control. But here's what the abyss teaches in the cold, unfiltered silence. Excuses don't heal you. Ownership does. This is the third virtue of the broken. The line in the sand between those who stay buried and those who rise. Because no matter who hurt you, no matter what you lost, the moment you claim full ownership of where you are, everything changes. Let's be clear. Ownership is not about self-blame. It's not about shaming yourself or taking responsibility for someone else's evil. It's about taking control. Because when you make excuses, you hand away your power. You give it to your past. You give it to your pain. You give it to people who never deserved it in the first place. You say, I can't move forward because of what they did. And in that moment, you make yourself a prisoner. But the broken who rise, they do something different. They look at their life and say, maybe it wasn't my fault, but it is my responsibility. That's ownership. And it's not pretty. It's not easy. It's brutal. It means sitting alone in the wreckage of your life and saying, I built this, or I allowed it, or I ignored the signs, or I played small, or I chose weakness when I should have chosen war. And it burns. God, it burns. But it also sets you free. Excuses give you comfort in the short term. Ownership gives you power in the long term. Excuses feel like relief. But they are chains. They are poison dressed as mercy. And they will keep you circling the same hell forever. The broken learn this the hard way. They spend days, weeks, months searching for someone to blame. Until one day, they realize the only way out is inward, into the patterns, into the decisions, into the missed red flags, into the addictions, into the weakness they didn't want to see. Because only when you face your part in the pain can you begin to rewrite the story. Ownership is violent self-honesty. It's a willingness to dissect your own failure like a surgeon. It's a choice to say, I allowed that person in my life. I stayed in that situation too long. I knew better and did it anyway. I settled. I slept on myself. I ignored the warning signs. I waited instead of acted. I coasted instead of climbed. And here's the miracle hidden inside the shame. If you can own that level of truth, then you can own your comeback too. No more waiting for justice. No more hoping for an apology. No more expecting the world to be fair. Just you. Raw. Ready. Reforged in accountability. And from that place, you rebuild. The broken who rise don't look outward anymore. They don't care who wronged them. They care who they're becoming. They care about what's next. They care about never being that weak again. Because they understand. Excuses feed the past. Ownership builds the future. And when you truly embrace ownership, you become untouchable. People can't manipulate you anymore. Circumstances can't derail you. Setbacks don't define you. Because you're no longer outsourcing responsibility. You've claimed your life as your own. Let this be burned into your mind. You cannot be powerful and full of excuses at the same time. One must die. Either your excuses or your greatness. Choose. This is the third virtue of the broken. And once it's yours, no one can ever take it again. Because you'll never again hand them the pen to write your story. You're the author now. The fire inside you burns clean, and you rise. not as a victim of your past, but as the architect of your future. Virtue 4. Clarity through suffering. In the dark, only what's real remains. When your life falls apart, your first instinct is to panic. The walls close in. The noise is deafening. You reach for something, anything, that feels familiar. But everything you once leaned on is gone. The people, the routines, the distractions, even the person you thought you were. It's terrifying. It's humiliating. But if you sit still long enough, if you stop thrashing in the void, you'll start to hear something else, something ancient, something true, something you couldn't hear when everything was comfortable. That is clarity. And it is the fourth virtue of the broken. Because only through deep, prolonged suffering can a soul shed illusion. Only in the cold shadows of despair does the real truth begin to whisper. Clarity doesn't come in a moment of bliss. It comes when you're stripped of ego, pride, and false identity. When you're no longer pretending, no longer performing, just broken, just honest, just real. At first, suffering scrambles your mind. But then, like dust settling after an explosion, things become clear. Pain wipes away the distractions that used to keep you blind. You begin to see people for who they truly are. You begin to see habits for what they really cost. You begin to see yourself, not as you wish to be, but as you are. Here's the brutal truth. Most people will never find clarity because they refuse to suffer consciously. They run from pain, numb it, drown it, avoid it with alcohol, dopamine, empty relationships, fake smiles, and synthetic success. But those who are broken wide open and stay there long enough learn to stop running. They stop asking why this is happening to them, and instead, they start listening. Because when everything else falls apart, pain becomes the only voice left. And pain speaks the language of transformation. It says, you were chasing the wrong things. You surrounded yourself with cowards. You betrayed your own potential for convenience. You were asleep, and now you're being forced to wake up. Clarity through suffering is not gifted. It's earned. Through silence, through solitude, through sitting still in agony until the lies rot away and only what's true remains. You see, when everything is good, you're blind. Success makes you arrogant. Comfort makes you soft. Pleasure makes you numb. You can't see who's fake. You can't see your own patterns. You can't even hear your own voice, because the noise of validation and external identity drowns it out. But when you suffer deeply, that noise dies. Your life becomes a barren battlefield. And in that stillness, the truth emerges from the smoke. That's clarity. The kind you don't get from books or lectures. The kind you can't buy. The kind you bleed for. What does this virtue look like once it's earned? You stop over-explaining yourself to people who never respected you. You cut off relationships that drain your soul, no matter how long they've been in your life. You say no, hard and fast, to things that once seduced you into distraction. You stop wasting time trying to fix others. You fix yourself and let your evolution speak for itself. You see every red flag with perfect vision, and you walk away the first time. Because now, your eyes are trained in darkness. You don't need light to see. You don't need applause to act. You don't need hope to move. You just move. With purpose, with power, with precision. Because now you have clarity. And that clarity was purchased with suffering. Here's the irony. Everyone says they want clarity. They want vision. They want direction, but they don't want to pay the price. Because the price is suffering. And not just any suffering, conscious suffering. The kind where you don't distract yourself. You don't run. You face it. You sit in it. You let it tear you apart, and you study every broken piece of yourself with brutal honesty. That's where clarity lives. Not in affirmations, not in podcasts, in pain, in silence, in isolation. So what happens after you gain this clarity? You start living like a sniper. No more wasted energy. No more scattered attention. No more self-betrayal. Every decision is deliberate. Every step is aligned. You don't ask for advice from the crowd, because the abyss taught you to listen to your own voice. And now that you can finally hear it, you protect it. You honor it. You follow it into battle. This is the fourth virtue of the broken. Clarity through suffering. And once you've earned it, the world will never again confuse you. Because you've been where few dare to go, and you saw the truth. Virtue 5. Relentless rebirth. You didn't bounce back. You burned down and became something new. When most people talk about getting back on their feet, they mean returning to who they used to be. Back to comfort. Back to normal. Back to stability. But if you've truly hit rock bottom, if you've tasted the dirt, if you've been gutted by life so completely that you no longer recognize yourself, then you know something that others don't. There is no going back. The person you were before. They died. They couldn't survive what you went through, and they weren't meant to. This is what the world never tells you. True healing, real transformation, isn't a return. It's a rebirth. And not the gentle kind. Not the pretty polished, Instagram motivational kind. It's violent. It's raw. It's a resurrection through fire. This is the fifth virtue of the broken. The most sacred. The most feared. Relentless rebirth. Let's be clear. You weren't just hurt. You were shattered. Life didn't bruise you. It annihilated you. It crushed your identity, exposed your weaknesses, and devoured the false security you called strength. And for a while, you were lost in that ruin, not knowing who you were, not knowing what to believe, not even knowing if it was worth trying again. But something inside you refused to die. A flicker, a whisper, a buried instinct that said, "No, this is not where it ends. This is where it begins." And so you rose, not quickly, not cleanly, but piece by piece, rage by rage, scar by scar. You didn't rise despite the destruction. You rose because of it. And that, right there, is the essence of relentless rebirth. It's not a single event. It's a mindset, a war cry, a covenant with yourself that says, "I will never allow a single version of me to be final. If I'm broken, I'll rebuild. If I'm betrayed, I'll outgrow. If I'm burned down, I'll rise from the ashes, sharper, darker, stronger than before." You don't just come back. You evolve, and you do it again and again and again. Not because it's easy, not because you're fearless, but because you've accepted the truth. Life will break you repeatedly, and every time you will choose to rise differently. Most people avoid this virtue. They fear change. They cling to identities. They mourn who they used to be. But the broken, the truly broken, they embrace the death of old selves because they know that weakness had to die, that illusion had to collapse, that comfort had to be buried. You don't cling to who you were. You shed them like old skin. You evolve or you die. There is no middle ground. This is why your suffering wasn't meaningless. It was a furnace, And now you walk this world as something different, something reborn, not restored. Here's what relentless rebirth looks like in action. You stop waiting to feel ready. You move through the discomfort. You stop identifying with pain. You use it as fuel. You don't just survive trauma. You build your new identity on top of it. You become immune to the fear of loss because you've already lost everything and came back stronger. You become unpredictable to your enemies because you're not the same person they tried to destroy. This is the secret weapon of those who've hit rock bottom: their adaptability, their refusal to cling to a single identity, their embrace of the cycle. Die, rebuild, evolve, repeat. You might look calm on the outside now, but you're carrying fire beneath your skin. A quiet, seething intensity that only those who've been destroyed and rebuilt can carry. You don't fear being knocked down anymore. You don't fear being misunderstood. You don't fear starting over. Because you know now, every ending is a forge. And every time you fall, you rise again, harder to kill. That's the power of relentless rebirth. That's what makes you terrifying. Not that you've never been broken, but that you've been broken 100 times, and every version that emerged was more powerful than the last. Let this be your mantra. I am not static. I am not final. I am not fragile. I am the architect of my next self. You have no ceiling, no limit, no expiration date. As long as you're breathing, you can become something greater. And the more pain you've endured, the more fuel you have for the fire. This is the final virtue of the broken, and perhaps the most dangerous one of all. Because once you've mastered the art of relentless rebirth, nothing can ever truly defeat you again. Not loss, not betrayal, not failure, not even death of your dreams. Because you'll just start over, again, and again, and again, until the world learns that breaking you was the worst mistake it ever made. To the returning GrimFace warriors, you already know. You've walked through fire. You've tasted the bitterness of silence, betrayal, and defeat. And still, you rise. This movement is built on your scars, on your relentless discipline, on your refusal to die quietly in a world that begs you to stay soft, stay silent, and stay asleep. You are not just viewers. You are not just supporters. You are the blood in the veins of this mission. And every time you press play, every time you sharpen your mind, every time you walk the path alone, you prove that we are building more than a community. We are building a legion. And to the new listeners who felt something awaken during this message, that wasn't coincidence. It was a calling, a signal from deep inside your soul that said, you don't belong with the masses. You were made for more. This movement isn't for the comfortable. It's for the chosen. Those who have suffered, those who have fallen, and those who are done making excuses. Join the GrimFace movement. Subscribe, engage, train your mind, your spirit, your will. This is not entertainment. This is transformation. We sharpen each other. We rise alone, but we never march alone again. Love, honor, discipline, and relentless evolution. GrimFace out.